This is StoryRobot. Welcome to r/RegularRevenge. Our story of today is, abuse me and my mother for years, keep us out of our home, and stop me from getting a haircut? Enjoy having an entire neighborhood kick your beep and steal your beep. My mom dated a guy named Michael from the time I was 7 until December 17, 2010. I had just recently turned 18 and was in my last year of high school. Michael was a person who did not deal well with issues he had from his own abusive upbringing. I've been a beep person before myself and I'm sure I still have a lot of room to improve, so I never like to speak poorly of people because I think it can be accurately assumed that most people have a good reason for being the way they are. It's not an excuse, but I don't think people are bad. I think bad circumstances condition people to behave badly. Michael was a severe alcoholic, he was childish, he was obsessed with knives, would talk about how he wished he could gut people alive, hung around violent criminals and took me around them as a child. He was extremely verbally and emotionally abusive to my mother. My mother wanted him to be my dad though, so to his credit he filled the dad role as best he could, but the best he could do was to teach me extremely unhealthy relationship dynamics and how to glorify violence and bravado. At the end of high school my mom's mom died and left my mom a house. The house is decently sized, and while it's still in the ghetto, it's in as safe a part of the ghetto as there is. Everyone that lives in this corner of the city has been here for decades and we all know each other very well. We're like a big family, but we keep to ourselves unless invited in by others. We respect boundaries, and that's what makes this small community a good one. Now, important to note, my neighbors and older bros are not angels. These people are violent criminals in their own right. But they were on my side, and this is important. So the house. It was left to me and my mother. Michael refused to let us enter the home. My mom and I lived in the smallest, beepiest apartment in the most violent part of the city. And, for 18-year-old me, I'd only just begun to reflect on life and realize how beepy Michael and my narcissistic mother had been towards me. I was fed up, and living in this disgusting, violent apartment was just fueling my rage every second. One day, I was especially furious. I don't know why, I just woke up in an absolute quiet rage. Contained myself through the school day and I was just fixated on getting a haircut. That was my goal for the day. Just get a haircut, get home, go to bed. And it's very important to note that I'm in a boot for a badly sprained ankle at this time. That comes up later. My mom throws a monkey wrench in my plans. See, she was sure Michael was cheating on her again. So she demanded I go over to the house I grew up in, that he kicked us out of, to inspect and see if there was another woman, or if there was evidence of other women being in the home. I protest, but to no avail. And at this point, I'm about an inch from exploding. I drive over to the house and I knock at the door for 7 minutes. This pushed me to about 1/2 of an inch from explosion. I grew up in the house. I beeping knew the acoustics of it. I don't care if you're in the last room upstairs at the back of the house, if someone lightly taps the front door, you hear that beep. So I knew he was making me wait as some show of dominance that this was his house. He eventually unlocks the door and I push it open and push him back in the process. He yells out and asks me what was wrong, and I responded in saying that I was there to make sure he wasn't beeping anyone else in my grandma her house. Now, I'm a pretty large guy. And Michael was small. Even back then I dwarfed him. But I've always been a gentle giant, as my mom says. I'd never gotten into a fight, almost never raised my voice or asserted myself with anyone. So for me to respond so firmly and disrespectfully, with no concern for how he felt, he backed off a bit in that moment. I noticed that. I began walking through every room of the house. I was finding nothing and no one, and I was fine with this. Remember, my goal is the haircut. That's all I want out of life right now. And then I get to my grandma her old bedroom. I open the door and it slams back in my face. Then out steps Michael's brother, who was about my size, and he says to me, "Ain't nothing for you in there." I remember being so angry, it was like past the point of an explosion. I described it to my girlfriend as pure rage and malevolence, yet restrained. I had this black expression on my face, turned around and walked downstairs, and I told Michael in a calm voice, "Get your brother and leave now. I've had enough of you in my life." Michael then, believing I was intimidated by his brother, gets in my face and starts to scream and curse and threaten me. I stood there honest to God just looking at him like a lion looks at the weak, small, destructible gazelle. Literally thinking to myself, I can break you. He then yells at me to get the beep out my house. All of a sudden I was snapped out of this trance state and I responded and said, "Beep, you have no house. You're homeless now. Get your brother and leave." He must have, again, recognized that his brother was all the way upstairs and I was inches away from him. But he's in too deep now. He has to commit lest his pride be wounded. So he says, "Oh, you think I'm a beep, huh?" And of course I responded, "I think you're a homeless beep." He then turns around and just keeps repeating, "You think I'm a beep?" He eventually comes back with 2 knives in his hands. I see this, and at this moment I'm very seriously okay with the thought of dying right then and there. Life had always been beep and I couldn't even get my damn haircut. This part still makes me cry even right now. So I told him, "You're going to have to kill me the first time you swing at me with those." Then his brother comes downstairs. I never took my eyes off of Michael. His brother stands on the stairs a few feet away from Michael, and Michael drops the knives and tries to tackle me and push me out of the house. I slip a little because of the boot, but once I get a little friction under the boot, it literally feels like when your little sibling tries to fight you. In that moment, I thought about how I was about to destroy this man. His brother must have saw me smile, because then he jumped in and started pushing me as well. IDK if I was stronger than I thought, or if the rage gave me an adrenaline rush, but I was pushing them both back. Michael's brother then starts to kick my boot, which both hurt my ankle and made me slip back. That, coupled with them pushing, eventually pushed me out of the front door, off the porch, and down the stairs onto the ground in front of the house. And this is the angriest I have ever been in my life. I was angry to the point where I would have gladly hurt myself to hurt them. I got so overcome with emotion, I started to cry and my breathing got erratic. Michael and his brother were taunting me as this happened, and I just started to take off the boot. I didn't want the haircut anymore, I wanted both of them hurt or dead. The next thing I notice is that people started surrounding me. I'm still struggling to regain motor control and take off the damn boot, and then two of my older brothers from the neighborhood, Jiggy and Tyrone, kneeled down and consoled me. Jiggy asked me what was wrong and what happened. I told them about all the beep Michael had done over the years and what happened that day. When I got to the end, Tyrone said, "Hold up little Chris, these mother beepers put you out of Miss Mama, what everyone used to call my grandma, house? After you told them to leave." Then both Jiggy and Tyrone started taking their shirts off and told me they'd take care of them if I said it. And I then heard all the stirring behind me. Damn near the entire block was in our yard or in the street in front of our yard. And they were all calling out support. "He ain't gone to you like that little Chris. Not on this street." And things like that. I looked up at Michael and his brother and I could see the fear on their faces. I just shook my head yes and said not to kill them. Jiggy and Tyrone ran in the house after them and dragged them out into the front yard. Then a circle pretty much formed around them, and it was just the most spectacular beatdown I'd ever seen. After that, Jiggy said they'd help me take all their beep out of the house and told me to keep the beep I liked. So I did exactly that. I went in with like 10 people. I gave some beep away to them, kept some beep, and pretty much just gave Michael and his brother the clothes no one else wanted. They ended up leaving their clothes. Here's why: the next door neighbor was this old veteran. Real gritty, no nonsense old guy named Alvin. Alvin walked out with his shotgun. He walked over to these two bloody pulps on the lawn and said, "Now got the beep off my street." And he literally just yelled at them to get up and run or crawl or roll to get off of the block. He followed them stumbling up to the main road, and then he calmly walked back. And that was the last day I ever saw or heard from either of them. The next few years were hell. Mom blamed me for ruining her relationship, and I had to unlearn all the terrible beep I'd been taught in life and start to go to school and get my life in order. Things are better now. Thank you for watching. Error. Problem detected. Not enough subscribers. Please subscribe, like and comment.